Hey guys, this is an important video to put out, and it's directed more specifically at the Kiwi, that is New Zealand, portion of the audience. Although no doubt there will be people globally who find this information of interest regardless. But obviously it's most relevant to New Zealanders, so I'll just crack straight into it. Please refer to the disclaimer in the description box below. I believe this dream was prophetic. I believe it was from God. Here we go. So, I've been shown that there is enormous tsunamis coming that are going to hit Lake Taupō in New Zealand. They're going to be about 15 meters high. I'm first going to describe. I've had lots of dreams about this. I'll give two of the dreams in which the Holy Spirit gave me information from God of what's coming. It was really interesting. I've had it cross-referenced from multiple locations as to the rough heights of the waves, the maximum heights they will reach of these tsunamis on Lake Taupō. So I'll quickly cover those two dreams, and then I'll get into a third dream. As I said, I've had many about this, which gave important details about how it's going to play out, and that I got shown it's going to play out just like this tsunami that's going to hit the coast of Ecuador that's coming soon, and they're going to be about the same height. I was shown also, so there's parallels, and I'll talk about that in a future video. So yeah, in one of the dreams I had about this subject, I was driving in a car along the Ruta del Spondolis, which is the highway that leads along the coastal part of Ecuador, on Ecuador's western Pacific coast. It's an extremely beautiful area, actually. I love that part of the world. Southern Manabi province, in particular, around Puerto Lopez, has just amazing energy. There's a national park there. Oh, it's deliriously beautiful. Yep, very happy memories from living there. Highly recommend it as a place to visit. That whole region, really nice people too. Although I wouldn't go there now. There's a ton of violence. They're in a civil war. That's partly why I left. It was super safe the entire time I was in Ecuador, and it's known for that. And all of a sudden it became hyper violent. I'll quickly say, this is a brief aside, but yeah, dude, I was in a provincial district called cantons, like a local province. You could say, like in New Zealand we would say like the local regional council, for like the Lower Hutt Regional Council or the Upper Hutt Regional Council here in Wellington. And this area only had about 29,000 people, and all of a sudden it went from being extremely safe to having about 40 murders at least in about 4 or 5 months. It was about 10 murders a month, averaged out to about 2.5 a week, so 2 or 3 a week. Yeah, it was just insane. So I wouldn't recommend going there now. But yeah, in this dream, I was driving in a 4-wheel drive vehicle between the towns of Salango and Puerto Lopez, and I'll put Google Maps pins in the description box below so you can actually see where I'm talking about. Yeah, actually I really like Salango. Yeah, it's a bit quieter than Puerto Lopez, but anyway. And it's a nice beach there. I've walked along at times. And the location where the waves were hitting us in the dream, we were driving north from Salango to Puerto Lopez. I mean, you can click on Google Maps from Street View. You can actually drive along and kind of see exactly where I was in the dream. But what happened is, as we were driving along, I saw these huge tsunamis coming in and hitting us. And the download I got from the Holy Spirit was that they were 15 meters high. And then the scene shifted and morphed, and I saw the shores of Lake Taupō. And that was God. Yeah, that was the Holy Spirit showing me that the tsunamis that are coming to the Pacific coast of Ecuador will be approximately the same height as those on Lake Taupō. And I had another dream about this where it was cross-referenced with regard to other tsunamis that I've had prophetic dreams about. In this dream, I was in a location in the hills of the Wellington Wellington city, that is, being the capital city of New Zealand. It was in these hills above the suburb of Seaturn. I'll put a pin as to roughly where I was. I'll put it just on a street because I don't want to point out some person's house to keep it anonymous. Although it was actually pretty clear where it was. I probably could almost pin it down to the house in terms of how exact the location was, and I remember it very clearly. But in this dream, there was me and would have been about 6 or 7 other New Zealanders, and the massive Hikurangi subduction zone mega quake, which I've been shown in many other dreams. I have many videos about this. I have a whole playlist for it. And many others have been shown that too, by the way. Lots and lots of other New Zealanders are having prophetic dreams about that event, and we're all being shown the same stuff. That had just occurred, and the first tsunamis were coming in. Well, it wasn't the first ones. The biggest ones were coming in. And they were hitting Seaturn, and they were actually coming. The suburb of Seaturn is mostly low-lying, and it's on ground close to sea level. It's only 2 or 3 meters above sea level. It's built on old sand dunes, similar to the suburb of Eastbourne on the opposite side of Wellington Harbour, which is where I grew up. I actually went to high school at Hot Scots College, which is just not, it's very close to Seaturn. You just go through a tunnel and it's on the other side. So I know that area quite well. Had some friends from there back in the day. And yeah, Seaturn was getting absolutely wiped out by these tsunamis, and they were so big they were even starting to come up the hill into, yeah, there were suburbs like Karaka Bays, I think, if you go further around north of there. And they were coming quite far up the hill, but they only got so far. And this particular house I was in, I think they call it Seaturn Heights. I'm not sure. I might have to correct that in the description box below. But yeah, the tsunamis were so big, they were coming right up the hill, and they were taking out houses on the lower parts of the hill. But this particular house was on the mid to upper portions of that hill overlooking the suburb of Seaturn, and it was kind of stepped, and it was on the slope. It was kind of built on a 45-degree angle slope. Just incidentally, I'll point out, Wellington is a very hilly city. It's one of the things I actually like about it, because it's got interesting geography. Personally, I find places that are completely flat can be a bit boring, but it's a personal thing. Yeah, and a lot of these hills are covered in native forest with lots of endangered native birds that are now reappearing because of all the conservation efforts here. The biodiversity in the city is recovering. So that's one of the things I like about Wellington. You've got really good culture, but then you've got tons of beautiful nature infusing the city right throughout it. And so, but because it's so hilly, but a lot of people want to live here because it's not for everyone. I love Wellington though, personally. I was born and raised here. My family's been here for 180 years. Yeah, because real estate's in demand. People are starting to build, and have been for a very long time, on very steep slopes. And I think it might be the city with the highest number of private cable cars in the world, something like that. If it's not, it's one of the cities with the highest number. I'll correct that again in the description box. There've been articles written in local newspapers about this. And this car, I think, yeah, this house in the dream had its own little cable car because it was built on such a steep slope. And the house was kind of stepped in levels down the slope, and the lower portions of the house actually got taken out by the tsunami, but we could see it coming from below, and we ran up from the bottom portions of the house. Some of us were already outside the house to an open area at the top of the property above the fourth section of the house. The house was kind of stepped into 4 levels, kind of cascading down the slope, and the tsunami took out the bottom one and partially flooded the second lowest one. And there were some of these people in this group of us in this house, in this dream, of this group of us being New Zealanders, 6 or 7 of us, were in the house and kind of watching. But then we saw the tsunamis coming in, and those people ran out, and we all gathered in this garden just above the 4th stepped level of the house, and there was a big concrete wall behind us, and I could see the road up above us, and we were just kind of in shock, but we were all okay. But we'd escaped it, but it was 15 meters high. I was given that number in the dream. The Holy Spirit downloaded me with that information intuitively in the dream, and again, and the scenery shifted, and I saw Lake Taupō. And I was looking at Lake Taupō from the southwest part of the lake, on the shore there from, I think, I think the village's name is Waihi. It's a Maori village. Yeah. I'll correct that in the description box below, and I'll put pins to where I was shown that view of the Lake Taupō tsunamis, which will be of the same height again. In this case, cross-referenced with the prophetic dreams of the height of the tsunamis that will happen in Wellington Harbour that have been shown are coming in the future after the Ecuador subduction zone quake, which will be part of a trans-Tasman megaquake swarm. I got shown there'll be a couple off the east coast of New Zealand and then a couple in the Tasman Sea, and they'll all happen at more or less the same time. And then tsunamis are going to be smashing both New Zealand and Australia. And then, I had that other dream I just mentioned where it was, the height of that tsunami was cross-referenced with this height of the tsunami, which have been shown in prophetic dreams, which is going to hit the coast of Ecuador. So the final part of this dream is a 50-50 splice, and God was showing me it will be the same scenario in Ecuador on the coast there when the tsunami hits as on the shores of Lake Taupō when that respective tsunami hits there. And it's 50-50. It's showing basically the same things happening in both places. So I'll repeat this information when I do the video soon about this tsunami that's coming to the coast of Ecuador, in which I'll share more detail about it and how to prepare, because this last dream I'm going to share is more pragmatic and gives detail about what to actually do when it hits. Okay, so basically I was shown in this dream, I was in a small community on the west shores of Lake Taupō called Whareroa. It's a Maori name. It's a really beautiful little town. I used to go there with my family for holidays between the years 1998 and 2002. Went quite a few times for summer holidays. It's very idyllic, very beautiful. At that point it was mostly holiday homes. I think there's more people living permanently there now. But it's not a small settlement, a large settlement in any case. It's quite small, but very beautiful. Highly recommend a visit if you ever get the chance. Yeah, and I'll put as well for this place a Google Maps pin. In this case, it was very specific. I'll put the pin outside the house that I was. One of the houses I was moving through in the dream, because I went from house to house in the dream warning people. Basically, in this dream, as it started off, I was in this town of Whareroa, and there had just been a very large earthquake, and I knew in the dream that tsunamis were coming. So I left this house and I began running down a road below, and I started knocking on doors, just warning people that it was coming and telling them they needed to get to higher ground. And I was frantically doing this. But what was interesting is that it didn't come immediately. And then it was given to me, just, okay, relax. It's coming, but it's not going to be instant. And in the dream, interestingly, I had enough time to warn a whole bunch of people, and we were sort of pleasantly surprised in that it didn't hit immediately, and we actually all had time to get to higher ground. And in the dream, I don't know if this will happen in real life, hopefully it does, no one died. No one died from being hit by the tsunami, by being in the danger zone, when it impacted the shoreline, because we knew it was coming and there was time to escape. In the dream, I don't think so would happen in real life. This is more symbolic. I had so much time compared to what I thought I would have, but I actually walked down casually to the lake's shore and then was just looking around, relaxed, sort of thinking, where is it? And then I kind of walked back up the hill. But in the dream, I was actually downloaded with a number. Now just to be clear, I'm not sure this will be 100% correct. This is just what was given. It could be 100% correct. or it could be more approximate, but the Holy Spirit told me 2.5 minutes. So it's 180 seconds. So we did actually have a little time to get out. It wasn't like, the earthquake happens and then boom, the tsunami's hitting within 20, 30 seconds. 2.5 minutes isn't long, but it's enough time for everyone to get to safety if you know that there is a risk of such an event happening and you're living in an area where, you've been trained on what to do in such an event. That's enough time that no one needs to die if they're smart and they're, able to move themselves, which in the dream everyone was. So in the dream, the tsunamis then started to hit, the coast, the shores of Lake Taupō. And I've had other dreams where I've seen them hitting the town of Kuratau, and I'll put a Google Maps pin to that in the description box below as well. And they were absolutely hammering Kuratau. That town, there wasn't much left because it's unlike Whareroa, which is built on hill slopes. Kuratau is built on flat land just above lake level, only 2 or 3 meters above lake level, and Kuratau was just getting absolutely annihilated. There wasn't going to be much left of that place, but Whareroa, there'll be, I think most of the houses will escape the tsunami because they're built higher up the hills overlooking the lake. And I'll save that for the dream where I talk about the Ecuador tsunami. But the scene then morphed, and I was in Ayampe, and I'll put a pin to that place where it is in Ecuador. On Google Maps in the description box below as well. And it switched to Ayampe, so I was being shown that it'll be the same thing in Ayampe when there'll be an earthquake in both cases, and then there'll be a pause and then a little bit of a break, and then the tsunamis will hit the shore. But I got shown the same thing in Ayampe. There'll be this big earthquake offshore, but there'll be enough time for everyone to get to safety in both Ayampe, because there won't be enough time for everyone to get to safety in other parts of the coast in Ecuador where it's all flat. There will be other areas where lots of people will die, unfortunately, but Ayampe is built on flat land, but it has big hills behind it, so it's easy for people to quickly get to high ground. And same with Whareroa, and it's not the same with all parts of the coastline of Lake Taupō. There are other areas where it's mostly flat, and so unfortunately there'll probably be other parts of around of the coastline of Lake Taupō, which is a very large lake, by the way. It's about the size of the island of Singapore. I think it's around something like 60,000 hectares or 600 square kilometers in size. So other parts of the Pacific coast of Ecuador, where it's mostly flat land, people won't be so lucky where they don't have hills very close by where they can run up. They can run up to escape from the tsunami quickly, and same with the shores of Lake Taupō. But the places where there are large hills, I got basically shown. Whareroa on the coasts, on the shoreline of Lake Taupō, and Ayampe on the Pacific coast of Ecuador, respectively, are 2 small towns. It's another dual symbolism the Holy Spirit was giving me. They're both small towns with large areas of tall hills behind them. And I was shown, at least based on the information I received in this dream, that I actually was shown that no one died in either place. So I'm not sure if that'll happen in reality, because maybe there'll be some old people who can't move, or some people who just refuse to leave their homes. But if it's not no one, I think the death toll will be almost zero, happily, from the tsunami. I was shown everyone had time to evacuate, and so that was actually quite a positive message. But at the same time, there'll be other areas, on the coast of Lake Taupō where I think people won't be so fortunate in terms of the geography and their options to get to high ground, especially on the east side of the lake. I recently drove along the east side of Lake Taupō. Well, I didn't drive, I was on a bus, going past places like Hatape and Motutapu on my way to the Taupo township. I was heading north to Auckland on this bus, and it's mostly flat land on the east side of the lake. But that's what I got shown. So I think that's important information for Kiwis. As I said, this dream is dual symbolism, so you could equally take it for, you know, information to prepare for the tsunami in Ecuador, but I'll do a separate video about that. But yeah, this last dream I'm talking about in particular was a 50-50 splice. But the key takeaway for New Zealanders is, as I said, I've been shown the tsunamis on Lake Taupō when they hit after this earthquake, which creates them, will be approximately 15 meters or 45 feet high, and they will devastate the coastline of the lake. But there will be time for people to evacuate to higher ground in areas where that's an option. So that's the good news. And so in areas where that is an option, no one basically will die, or almost no one. Or, you know, there might be some rare cases of people who have mobility issues or just choose to stay for whatever reason or make bad decisions. But so that's kind of a positive, hopeful note in terms of, you know, this disaster that's coming, that's going to nevertheless do enormous property damage and financial damage and destruction of infrastructure too. Also, yeah. And I'll add, to finish up, there has been research done in recent years, and they've found that there have been many tsunamis on Lake Taupō in the past, and there was this recent one, I think in the last couple of years, and I had prophetic dreams about that before it happened, about its location. But that one was only about 1 meter high. That was kind of the warning, that was the warm-up. The big one I got shown, yeah, will be, I mean, the tsunamis will be huge. 15 meters high. That's the sort of size of a 5-story building. So, yeah, this is more of a warning, specifically for New Zealanders and specifically those living around Lake Taupō on the volcanic central plateau of New Zealand's North Island. So, hope it's of some value, and yeah, I'll catch you on the next one, and I'll do that video for the tsunamis hitting the coast of Ecuador, which is closely related to the dreams I've had about this one, at some point in the future. Don't know when it will be though, because my life is still a bit chaotic, so you'll just have to bear with me. Thanks for your time. Cheers.